folks. Here we go. So I'm going to tell you about Jim Thorpe. And I always start off with my thesis statement. I can't help it. I was a former teacher. Why do I think Jim Thorpe is the greatest athlete of all time? It comes down to two reasons. I think when I think of greatest athletic talent, I think of somebody whose physical gifts makes them a very clear cut above everybody else they compete against. And I think the greatest athletic talent of all time also means that the person's ability allows them to succeed at several professional levels. Remember, I said that, okay? Now, for the kids, let me start off at the beginning because Jim Thorpe is way back. He's not a recent figure. We don't have a lot of media cuts to be able to celebrate of him. It's not like Deion Sanders, who played in the 90s, who's right there and accessible via media as much as Jim Thorpe was. Jim Thorpe was born in 1887, and he lived until 1953. So he's a bit back there. Who was Jim Thorpe? He was an Olympic gold medalist. But he wasn't just that. He played Major League Baseball. He played professional football in the NFL, and he played professional basketball. And he also tried to play in several other sports that were around during this time, but he faced constant racism because Jim Thorpe was a Native American, and Native American sports leagues were really the only option for a lot of the sports that Jim Thorpe wanted to play. So he faced constant racism, and who knows what he could have accomplished even more than what he did in a very storied career if those doors had been open to him and not shut to him based on something as completely non-consequential as his race. So that is Jim Thorpe in a nutshell. I want you to understand who he was. Now let's go into why I think he was the greatest athletic talent of all time. And I always give you three reasons. I have two reasons this time because I don't have to go past that. That's how clear cut this is. So reason number one, why I think Jim Thorpe was the greatest athletic talent of all time, he was a clear cut above everybody else he competed with in terms of athletic talent. Let me give you some examples of that. In college, just showed up. He was walking past the high jumping team for his college, and he decided on a whim, hey, I want to try that. And so he decided in his street clothes to go and compete with that team. He outjumped all of them, every single one that was on the squad, and he did it in his street clothes. So this college squad wasn't just a bunch of scrubs either. This college squad had made the state championships in years prior, and Jim was a little short for the average height of a high jumper during this time. He was only 5'9", and he just showed up regular clothes and outjumped all of them without a second thought. That just gives you a snapshot of this guy's athletic ability, okay? When he played professional football, he averaged 9.7 yards a carry. 9.7 yards a carry. That's how good he was as a running back. In professional baseball, when he played in the MLB, he was a lifetime 250 hitter. And remember, this is during the era known as the dead ball era, where literally there was no offense in the MLB. So 250 was a very good average to have during this time. So just to show you his ability across several different sports. In the Olympics, he competed for Team USA. He ran the 110 meter in 15.6 seconds. Nobody has broken that record. It took 40 years for somebody to break that. And the thing that's even more amazing about the fact that he broke this record and it took so long for someone else to break it, the morning of that event, he showed up and someone stole his track shoes. Whether it was the result of racism against him, someone playing a prank, maybe a competing athlete, we don't know. But Jim knew he had to compete. And so what he did, he found a pair of shoes, used broken shoes in a trash can nearby. They weren't even the same shoes. One shoe was from one set and one shoe from the other set. He put both those on, and one shoe was so big he had to put two socks on one foot just to make it fit. He put both those shoes on and he still kicked beep during this race and set that record, which nobody broke for another 40 years. Yeah. As an Olympian, he also ran the 1500 meter in 4 minutes and 41 seconds. That record was not broken for over 100 years. It was 2016 when a player finally broke that record. And the player in 2016, he was wearing a modern tracksuit, he was wearing spikes, and he was running on a perfectly manicured track. Jim Thorpe didn't have any of those advantages, and it still took people 100 years to beat that. He took first place in 4 different decathlon events. No Olympian has ever done that ever to this day. That has never been broken. So Jim Thorpe, clearly a clear cut above everybody else he competed against. I don't even know why that's a debate. The second point I want to make to you about why Jim Thorpe is the greatest athletic talent of all time, his ability let him succeed on many professional levels. To be called the greatest athletic talent, you have to show some success, right? And maybe that's where Daniel and I differ in our argument, because you can have great athletic talent, but it should translate into something. So that was something that Jim Thorpe did. As an NCAA football player, he was named an All-American 3 out of 4 years. He played multiple positions, just like Deion Sanders. He played running back. He played defensive back. He was a place kicker. He was a punter. He did it all. In the Olympics, he won the gold in the decathlon and the pentathlon. And as I said, broke several records that took several years in order to be able to be broken by future athletes. In the NFL, he led his team to 6 championships, folks. He was a leading rusher several seasons out of that. And on occasion, he would get in there during critical moments and he would punt because he was that good too. Jim Thorpe is the greatest athlete of all time. Very clearly, he showed that he was a cut above everybody else athletically against his peers. And he also showed that he could succeed with that athletic talent that he was given. And you don't have to take my word for it again. I'm not just saying this because I believe it. This is what the experts have to say too. And ABC did a poll back in the year 2000. And Jim Thorpe was named the greatest athlete of the 20th century. And he beat out 15 other athletes, names Muhammad Ali, Babe Ruth, Jesse Owens, Wayne Gretzky, Jack Nicklaus, Michael Jordan. Jim Thorpe came above all of those individuals in this poll. And Olympic historian Bill Mellon, and I'll finish with this. This guy has been watching athletes for a very long time. He is a historian of watching the greatest athletes in the world play. He said, and I quote, "Jim Thorpe is the greatest athlete of all time. Still, to me, it's not even a question," end quote. Those are my points as to why Jim Thorpe is indeed the greatest athlete of all time. And I think that point is made crystal clear for you, ladies and gentlemen.